All right, we're going to do a real quick one here. Kind of thinking about, what has been taken away from basically like people as a core. And it's a sacred thing. It's, it's really kind of hard to describe. You look up the word and it says different things, but what it means to me is something precious. It doesn't necessarily have to have religious tones. I mean, words mean different things to different people, and people react to words differently than, and tone has a lot to do with it as well, and circumstance. But if you look at what's kind of going on within society right now, the things that people hold sacred, like intimate relationships, and what some may call values or opinions or whatever, some things that just are frowned upon so much that you can't have any exception to it. I swear my cat wants to be in everything I record. He's my sacred cat, though. So you have a opposition of to all things sacred, whether it's the inclusion to it, which I can understand that because I've always fought to be included throughout my life, and I've always been denied. And whether it's been from bad choices that I've made in my past, or maybe the way I look, or whatever. So racism isn't just a race thing. It has to do with class, money, bad decisions, personality, or if somebody even likes you or not. I've always kind of struggled to get to a plateau to where I didn't worry about general things in life and just kind of live life comfortably. I'm not talking about like having a maid or having, uh, you know, enough money to just go lavish style, but just enough money to, well, if my car breaks down, I can just go buy another one. Or if, I break my leg, I need to go to the doctor, I don't have to worry about that. Same way with my children and my cat. Yeah, my cat too. But I've never been able to puncture that plateau because I know from the one time that I did actually puncture it, um, I wouldn't abide by certain standards and rules that quote unquote corporate people held. They basically wanted me to be the bad guy cop or whatever, write people up and, you know, do things, make things happen. And I just, for somebody that, for like me, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty just, I'm pretty fair. And, I mean, I listen to people's cases. So I remember this one guy, and he had an attitude, and they wanted me to write him up. And some of you might know this guy if you hear this or whatever. Or you're on my Facebook page. They wanted me to write him up because he didn't want to participate in the company meetings that we had every morning. He would just act a fool. He would just be like, oh, God, I don't want to do this. And they said, man, you got to get your boy, man. You got to put him down. You got to put him down on paper. Write him up. So I went over and I talked to him, and I was like, what's the problem here? And he just basically said, I don't need that stuff, man. And I had to go over contracts that were, signed and stuff like that to make sure that they were all valid and everything like that, so that there was no complications and they were all legal and all that good stuff. So, looking at his perspective of it and looking at the work that he outputted, I agreed with him. He didn't need it. I never had him on my contract list. I never had a problem out of him. As a matter of fact, he was a $100,000 a month salesperson. So he had a good, valid reason for not really wanting to participate because he wasn't going to benefit. The company wasn't going to benefit. I wasn't going to benefit. So I just said, you know what? That's a valid point. I can't. Afterwards, I was approached and said, did I write him up? And I said, no. And that was probably the first riff that I had with systematically being plucked out of a position, that a good position. That and the fact that, I would try to talk to my superior about situations in store, and he would not take care of it. And when a woman came in with a with an item that was broken and had a problem, there was a recall on it, and he said, well, we just got to send her to this. And, with this woman with tears in her eyes in my store telling me that she's tried for 2 months to get this done. Well, I took it upon myself to go over my boss's head because I just don't roll like that. I mean, it's not like and she was paying her bill as well on an item that had been recalled from the manufacturer. I don't roll like that. I wasn't just going to count the number and crunch it and roll it and let us pocket that. I have a moral code. And the other thing is what if that was somebody that I knew? What if it was me? Goes back to a golden rule. And that should be sacred for everybody. It's the golden rule. I see these videos of these people protesting and other, just regular civilians, faces, throwing their dinner plates while they're eating with their family. You have to understand there's a protest, right? And then there's just stuff that's hate. You see what I see going on right now is you see these sides and you take one person's actions and you clump it in as everybody. It's just like the guy that got shot in Portland and all these other. Oh, look, see what they're doing over there? No, they aren't doing anything. That's the action of one person, and that can even be put back all the way to, police brutality. Just because that police officer was obviously a bad apple, whatever you want to term, a loose cannon, whatever, it doesn't mean that every cop is a bad cop. That's the thing that nobody understands. This is not a black and white thing. This is a human thing. Are there racist people? There sure are, and it's on both sides, and it's evident. And you could sit there and put up a picture and put it in somebody's face and try to shove it down their throat, but all you're going to end up doing is agitating a situation to worse than what it is. Because there's good people out there that don't agree with all of this nonsense, and then it leaks into their dinner plate, no pun intended. And what are they supposed to think? That doesn't leave an impression of positivity that your group is there to make a sustainable, positive change. It provokes fear. And quite frankly, if somebody did that to me, I'd be pretty upset. Why would you do that in front of my kids? I mean, we're not police officers. We don't have a problem. You didn't come to the table and say, hey, could we talk to you a minute about what our situation is? But that's the problem. Nobody's in the business of talking anymore. Right? Wrong. So we have a situation here locally. I'm going to get involved in it and try to get this thing resolved. Because I don't understand. Everybody just working off their emotions. It's great to see a man feed off their emotions. It's great. It's ineffective. It's kind of like watching a hamster in a wheel. Don't tell me. I will tell you that you can be systematically held down in place. And I'm not saying that that's not taking place as far as monetarily wise. Right? But if you work hard, you can break through certain barriers. And unfortunately, unless you're, I guess I don't know what it takes. So but I do know that there is a wall, and there's a power, and it could just be on a personal level. Maybe there is something wrong with me. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever given anybody. Of course, when I was younger, I made stupid mistakes, and I hurt a lot of people. But you grow from those mistakes, you reflect on it, and you evolve. And I'm kind of pleased with the way that I've evolved for the most part. Not perfect by any means or standard, but it's those things that were sacred, that were instilled in me, that I just neglected and overlooked as I was younger because I didn't care. And that's kind of what's happening now. It's like you take all the stuff that's like over sexualized everything to where it's like you become desensitized to it and almost numb to where it's like these interactions that you have with people are not experiences. It's just, eh. Camaraderie is hard to find. I mean, look at these factions and stuff. It's like there's there's so many leaders, but all these leaders out here, they have no center. And then it's just messed up. I mean, if I want to get something done and I want to get something changed, I'm not going to talk to, a private in the army. I'm going to go talk to the general. You know why? Because that's more likely to be able to get something done. You're talking to somebody who's in training, or you're talking to somebody that is incapable of assisting you in what you need done, you're wasting your time. I tell people things all the time. I mean, if you look at the videos on my feed, it's funny because you can go back and a lot of people are getting all up about the sex trafficking thing now. Where were you a few years ago? Look at I made a video a year ago about it, over a year ago. You talk about all this FISA stuff. 3 years ago, I made a video about it. The information's there if you just want to take those little blinders off and stop worrying about your nonsense. Life is a wonderful, sacred thing. And for anybody to die needlessly is silly. And you can't tell me that you're protesting against violence while there's violence and you got guns, and it's just nonsense. I mean, they had people that would do marches peacefully and successfully. And I'm going to tell you what, it's like, I don't understand what's so difficult to understand. If you get a huge amount of people and you gather and you move forward, yeah, it might be an inconvenience and it might get a lot of stares, but you maintain your, what is this? Hold this. This is a word that you need to understand. Integrity. People reflect with integrity. Most people do. When you have integrity, people can reflect on that and say, that they could have done a lot of damage, but they didn't. Do you realize that in protests there was people of color that were hit with water hoses, spit on, slapped, beat, killed? And we've gotten to the point to where we've been able to reflect on that humanity and say that that's just wrong. But it's people like Martin Luther King that was able to have knowledge, kindness and love, nonviolence, and here's the big one, integrity. Okay? If you have some integrity about yourself, people can look at it. But if you come in to a place and all you do is cuss, shame people, blame people, this isn't the path. The path is really having an open heart and saying, I want to help you, but I need help from you. How can we get this to work out? When you start coming from a different place, you're going to start feeling some resistance. And that's really where we're at now. And then it just accelerates. I mean, I've said it before, like with George Floyd, whenever that video came out, I think everybody and their mothers saw that video, and whenever he died, it was just heartbreaking. And I think at that time, the world was united in disgust. And it was a really viable platform to jump off of into getting some positive changes done. And in all honesty, I think some positive changes are getting done. But you have to understand that, okay, so you have to understand this. How many arrests have happened since that time? Since the time that George Floyd passed away? Okay? How many police shootings have taken place? Okay? I'm not going to do the research. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, I could probably guess that it's The arrests outweigh the shootings by a lot. You can't effectively make a change and have it it's not a switch. You can't turn it on and off. I mean, if you have children, you should know this very well. You can't tell your child, look, don't ever make a mistake in your life and be perfect, and then walk away for 3 hours and expect him not to do something silly or make a mistake. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. That'd be like, you know, white people saying to black people, hey, you know what? Don't make any more rap music and just change that, all the lyrics and stuff like that. It doesn't work that way because people, that's really kind of a bad kind of a correlation, I guess, because we're talking about life and death here. But this is really blown way out. And I mean, if you can't see that this is all largely orchestrated, then you're really not looking at it very clearly. There's a whole bunch of stuff muddled together, and there's a lot of people trying to figure out exactly what it is, and there's a lot of theories out there. But if you want to know what the real core of it is getting back to what's sacred. Life is not sacred anymore. Pride is not sacred. It's all dubious from a dark place. And that's what's going on. And you can tell the way that people interact with each other. If I like a certain musician and you don't, are we going to fight about it? My kids crack me up. It's great. So there's probably several breaks in this thing where I've actually had to go in and, speaking of telling them to do something and they don't always do it. Look, when you're talking about life, you're not talking about, when you're talking about people, you're not talking about like clay or Play-Doh. You don't put it into a position that you like and it stays that way. We're individuals. We think, we have emotions, we are impacted by other decisions. And basically the thing that we're kind of trying to defend and some of these people that are protesting, they might have it in their perception that they're trying to hold on to something sacred, and that might be their right to be able to not live in fear, because I know a lot of black people and they do live in fear, or but the other thing is that I can also tell you, as far as police interaction, nobody likes to have those lights in the background. I mean, I don't care. But here's the deal: is if you haven't ever had an interaction with them and you're just respectful, and you comply, doesn't mean go walk around your car. It doesn't mean go try to not do what they're saying. Just expect what's going to happen. I mean, that's just common courtesy. And that's another thing that we've missed, because there's nothing sacred. There's nothing sacred about being nice to that person walking past you on the street, because it doesn't benefit anybody, right? But it does. It benefits you and that other person, to let them know, hey, that person acknowledged that I exist. That's probably another thing that's just, we've lost a sight of a lot of communication with one another because of the digital age. Cell phones in the hand, texting. I mean, I'm guilty of it, 100%. I've built walls around me, and I don't communicate with people anymore because, I've extended myself and I'll get hurt. And I got a big one that just happened recently. And it hurts me to my core. And I really don't know how to deal with it. It angers me, it disappoints me, and it makes me... It's on that borderline of making me bitter, but I'm not bitter about it. It's just, people say something and dismiss it. If you're going to say something to somebody, follow that shit through. Or how about this one? This is the thing that really eats my goat. They don't acknowledge it. They'll tell you this and do the opposite right in front of your face, and not even address you or explain or anything. That makes me feel like I'm not counted for and I'm not worth anything. So here's a clue, here's a hint. If you tell somebody that you're going to do something within all of your power, try to do it. And if for some reason you can, or it's going to be longer, hey, just say, look, here's the deal. The bonds that we have as humans, the sacred bond, is being destroyed. So, anyway, that's my whole rant on sacred stuff. It's, it's mainly just, an intimacy with one's inner spirit and other people's spirits, their soul core, their psyche, whatever you want to call it, can be applied. I was going to make this short, but probably about 5 minutes of cat and kids I got to cut out. But they are what's sacred to me. Just as a little addendum, this is post-recording. What I kind of went everywhere with this video, but what I was really trying to put and get across is that we used to hold things that were dear, and I just found out that everything. I knew it for a while, but I never knew the face of it and who exactly it was. But now I know all the details, that this protest turned to violence was actually promoted and started and kicked off by a group of Aryan Brotherhood members. If you don't know what that is, that's a group of white supremacists. Okay? So if you're participating and you're not in that faction, you're a fallen victim to those people's desires. That's what they want. So step back and really think of who's benefiting from ill actions or hate or negative feelings that you're projecting out. All the shaming and finger pointing and all of this nonsense and shootings, actually, it's just crazy. So, but you need to be aware that that is a fact, 100%. That's where this all originated from. Also, there's people out there that try to follow and find out and dig and get the information. And a lot of times it'll come early and we don't have all the details. Some people call people like me and other people like conspiracy theories that were crazy. That's pretty interesting. But, that's why I always try to really, but sometimes I kind of hold off on certain things and I'll put it out later, but it's mainly just to make sure that it's accurate. I don't try to ever put out any kind of false information or mislead anybody. So that needs to be known. So my primary goal is to, first of all, get people thinking and thinking positively and show them that love is the answer. Love, understanding. You have to have both of them. You can't just blindly love. You have to understand what you're doing and why. It has to be thoughtful. Some people kind of dog me out and be like, well, you omit religion. Well, I'm not a preacher. Well, somebody else is in my family's job, but the thing is that if you first get love and understanding, that path will automatically open up to people. It's just logic. But anyway, I'm out. Have a good one.